Welcome to the Poisoner's Cabinet. I'm Sinead.
And I'm Nick.
And this is your weekly podcast exploring the lives of the great poisoners, macabre murders and captivating crimes from across the centuries, and creating curious cocktails inspired by the desert we tell. And it's episode 240.
Marvellous.
Oh,
I
marvellous.
didn't realise we hit the 40s.
We hit the roaring 40s. No, it's the roaring 20s.
Roaring 20s.
They're flinging 40s.
The bombed out 40s.
Bombed out 40s. Well, things happened in the 40s. Lovely. It was very sensible for a bit. Big shoulder pads.
Yes.
Yes. How are you, Nick?
I'm alright.
You're very good.
It's another week.
It's another week.
It's another week.
You got your braces on.
Got my braces.
Yeah, your snazzy braces.
Snazzy braces.
They're colourful. They're really cool.
I'm very trendy.
You are very trendy. No, you're very smug. I think this is what's giving you your extra sort of smug, quirky, devil-may-care kind of thing lately.
My braces.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're like, hey.
I need to invest in pairs in multiple colours.
Yes, you do need multiple coloured braces.
I've got some black ones which I wear for work, but they're boring.
Oh, yeah.
And I've
Duh.
got
That's
red-
a funeral kind
Red,
of
red and
braces.
white polka dot ones.
Ooh.
And then some orange ones. So I need to get some new ones.
Yeah, new ones.
In different
Purple.
colours. Some purple ones.
Rainbow ones, just to
some green
really
ones.
hammer the point home.
Yeah, we get some rainbow ones probably.
Yeah, you should get rainbow ones.
Yeah.
Rainbow suspenders are amazing.
Yeah.
Rainbow suspenders.
Yes.
Hey, big spender.
Yeah, I say braces. People think I've got this in my mouth.
Yes, no, yeah. Well, it's suspenders, braces. Combinations is another word for dungarees as well, but some people
Yes.
also use it for that, which
Do
is
they?
just bizarre.
The combinations, yes, dungarees.
Suspenders and braces. Woohoo!
I should wear dungarees. I should make some.
Oh, you should really?
It's
I support you in whatever you do, Nick.
It's much like this, but my trousers being higher.
Is that what you've been aiming for all your life? I want pants way up to here, but give them a little braces thing, and they look cool.
Yeah, exactly. Is that not what dungarees are?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
get. Well, there's sort of you pull them up, and then whatever happens underneath it, it's like, fine, I can let everything hang out. Or you wear a cute little crop top.
Yeah, I'm not going to go with a cute little crop top. I'm not sure I can pull off a cute little crop top.
I think you can. I 100% think you can.
Yeah.
This is the start of your OnlyFans.
Yes, that's a niche look, I'd say.
Any poisonings this week?
Probably people who see my OnlyFans.
Sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I wonder.
How do you think I can afford all this luxury?
Such finery. Such braces.
Such braces, exactly. This is the finest silk I'll have, you know.
Oh, why do I think it's actually true? And good for you. Power to you if you do. Are you doing sexy braces?
Sexy braces work.
Sexy braces, but if you could say, like, sexy suspenders, loads of people go in and go, ha ha ha, it's braces. But also, feel the snap.
I should do that. I should change it. Sexy suspenders.
You should change
And
it.
then yeah, exactly. Then people go, oh. And then I've got their money and they'll go, oh, God, no. It's a fat man in braces. Ah!
Suddenly, like, how have I made £1 million in a month? Oh, okay, this was the niche everyone was looking for. I like it. Yeah. It's good to have a business plan.
Absolutely, it's a good plan. I like it.
Good. Well, speaking of making millions through braces and everyone being okay and supportive of that, I think it's time for us to thank our delicious Patreon subscribers.
Absolutely. And just for the record, none of that is true. Just really want to get that out there.
Who do you think is listening? Who do you think is listening? You've disappointed people. That's all you're doing.
Well, I apologise.
Does Aunt Gordon listen to this? Aunt Gordon would run OnlyFans.
She probably would have.
She really would.
Right, well, this week we have much thanks to say to many people. But we must start with Camille Hickman. Thank you very much.
To Amy Jane.
To Irene Chung.
To Gertie Gherkin.
To Catherine Webb.
Ash McLeod.
To Carrie Alson.
To Amanda Price.
And finally, to Steve the Cat.
The cat.
Thank you very much to you all.
Oh, you delicious, sexy Patreon subscribers. Thank you so much for joining us, particularly the cat in man's disguise. We had fun on Patreon this week, didn't we, Nick? Well, we were a little bit late on Patreon, but we got there in the end.
Yes, we got there eventually.
It was only yesterday, Nick, so you must be able to remember it.
I remember the great many internet failures.
We had so many technical glitches, literally by the end of it, we were just sitting with our head in our hands like, why?
Why does the internet hate us?
But it was a brutal story.
It was a sad tale.
It was.
Dear old Sarah Hughes.
Gruesome, but good.
Yes.
If you want to know what the hell we're talking about, please do consider joining us on patreon.com/The Poisonous Cabinet, where you can get extra episodes from us every single week, as well as bags of bonus content, and join a wonderful community where more of our fans can chat to us, share ideas, make friends. It's just a lovely, lovely place. We're also on all the social media channels. If you don't follow us there already, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. We have a Facebook group That's called the Belladonna Book Club. If you're bookish people and you want to join that, we have some of the others as well, but those are the ones we're mainly active on.
Indeed.
Yeah, we can't do everything. We're really
There's
tired.
so much out there.
There's so much out there. If you haven't already, if you've been loving the Poisonous Cabinet, please do give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast. Reviews make a huge amount of difference to any podcast you listen to. If it's us, anything you're listening to, just take those minutes to hit the 5 stars on there, because it means that we can reach more fans and keep doing what we are doing. Well, Nick, are you ready
Probably.
to drink cocktails and talk about poison?
Why not? We're on a roll.
Or we can drink poison and talk about cocktails.
There's also an option.
Yeah, I fancy a drink. Should we go with the first one?
Let's do that.
Hooray, hooray, hooray. It is my story this week, and we can't possibly have a story without a cocktail in hand. As you know, dear listeners, every week we choose a secret ingredient that is inspired by the tale that we tell, and it will flavour our cocktail of the week. Nick, the secret ingredient is... assassin.
An assassin.
An assassin.
A singular or multiple?
Oh.
Oh.
Oh. Oh.
A gag. What's the collective noun for an assassin?
A murder of an assassin.
A murder of assassins?
I don't know, a gathering,
Gaggle.
a disbursement of assassins. They can't always be
A stabbing
together.
of assassins.
A stabbing of an assassin.
like that.
A pouncing of an
Yes.
assassin.
A sneaking of assassins.
A sneaking of an assassin. There you go. The alliteration is there. So it's a sneaking of an assassin. There is more than one assassin this
Okay.
week. There we are.
Definite sneaking going on.
And yes, lots of possibilities there.
Yeah.
So with an assassin.
With an assassin in hand.
Assassin.
Assassin.
What have you come up with?
We're going to have. We're going to have a red killer.
A red killer.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. I like that.
Good, I'm glad.
That will work.
'Cause that's what we're having.
Wonderful.
If you didn't like it, tough.
Oh. But I don't like the name or the cocktail.
Well, either. Really.
Well, either way. If I don't like the cocktail, I just go and take all your booze and go, whoa. Wonderful. I'm excited for this, for this killing, apparently. I think it's high time for us to slink into the Poisonous Cabinet kitchen and shake up a storm, so we'll see you in a minute.
We'll see you in a bit.
And we're back.
Hello.
So, Nick, a red killer.
A red killer.
Now, this is very red.
It's very red.
It's neon, practically.
Yeah.
So it's quite clear, but it's very orangey red.
Oh, maybe I've made it right. I think I have.
Was it not meant to be red?
It's not supposed to be red, but is anything meant to be that red?
I mean, it's very red. So I have thoughts about what could be in this, because there's only certain things that could be this red. So I'm thinking there's Campari in this, but I
There
haven't
is,
tasted it
yeah,
yet.
yeah,
Oh, so there's
there's
Campari.
Campari,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, let's dive in before I do any more guessing.
Yes, indeed. Okay.
Cheers. Merry Christmas. Okay.
Ooh.
Uh-huh. Do I like that?
What's
It's interesting.
Oh,
Whew.
I don't
Yeah.
think about that.
It's a bit like the first time we tasted a Negroni, but
Yeah.
it's not. It doesn't taste like a Negroni. There's
It doesn't.
Campari in
There's
there.
Campari in there, but it's nowhere near as bitter as a Negroni.
No. Is there white vermouth in this?
There is white vermouth in this.
I can always tell.
Yeah.
So white vermouth, Campari, and then sunshine and lollipops and rainbows. What else is in this? What's that smell? What's that smell?
There's a
Something
thing.
floral.
There's a thing you might get.
I might get.
There's definitely an aroma and a taste.
That's a good sign for a cocktail, isn't it?
but no, that you should recognise.
I should recognise. Pear.
No.
Apple.
No.
Something fruity.
Something fruity.
Cherry.
No.
Peach.
No.
Elderflower. No. Apples. Banana. Pineapple. Grapefruit. Why? Pear. Why are you laughing at me? Why are you laughing at me?
Because you know this.
I don't. You know what I'm like under pressure. I don't remember where I live now. Orange?
Yes.
Right. I just thought that was so obvious. I didn't say it.
obvious
I
is
know,
good.
I know. I'm sorry. I panicked. Triple sec?
It's not triple sec.
Cointreau?
No.
Grand Marnier.
Grand Marnier.
Grand Marnier.
Grand Marnier.
Is that it?
One more thing.
One more thing. Liquor?
Yep.
Gin?
Yes.
So weird. Okay, so gin, white vermouth, Grand Marnier, and what was the other thing I said? Campari. Obviously Campari. Oh, okay.
So there's 4 things.
All right. So second sip here. It
So-
mellows.
yeah, so
it mellows on the second. Okay.
The Grand Marnier really smooths out the bitterness
Really does.
from the Campari.
And from the white vermouth.
Yeah, it really mellows it and makes it a lot sweeter.
Okay, second sip was really different. Okay, third sip. Sorry, I don't want to neck this. I've
Fourth
got a
sip.
lot of words
Sixth
to
sip.
read.
Yeah, it's a potent one. It's gonna knock on your ass.
Oh wow!
But it's actually quite nice. I'm liking that.
That is a third sipper. Get to the third sip.
Yeah, I'm enjoying that one.
I was not sure in the first sip. I was like, "What have you done?" Oh, it was all of the Negroni feels when you first taste it. Bitter, slightly acrid, and there's all this kind of what's fighting in my mouth. But it turns out a lovely drink is fighting, and then it mellowed.
So I'm a fan of that.
That's
I'll probably never know
alright.
make another one, but I'm a fan of that one at the moment.
If you want to riff, if someone really likes a Negroni and they're like, "I'm sick of Negronis," mix up that, they'll be happy.
Or if someone finds a Negroni too bitter,
Yes.
potentially.
No.
I don't find that anywhere near as bitter as a Negroni.
I know, but your mouth is made of cement,
It's
I
true.
think.
I have no taste buds left. So.
No, you do have a refined palate, but still, you're used to the bitter.
Well, I am, yes.
If someone finds a Negroni,
But still-
if someone was like, the Negroni's too bitter, you gave them that, they'd still be crying.
Yeah, okay, fine.
But some of them just want a little bit of a twist on it. You have to like a Negroni to like that, I think.
Fair point, can't argue with that.
Okay, Red Killer. It's a killer.
It is, it's because it's potent, that one.
Well, with the Red Killer firmly in hand, Nick,
Yes.
are you ready for a story?
Oh, go on then, enthrall me.
I shall. We talk a lot about the Victorian era, Nick.
We do.
We haven't talked a lot about Queen Victoria herself.
Yes.
She's a queen. Why would we?
She's a queen.
Yeah, and
was.
I'm not going into the history of Queen Victoria. Fascinating as it
Right,
is.
so we're not saying the 100-year reign of Queen Victoria day by day.
No, that's for another episode. But she reigned for 63 years. And during that time, did you know there was 7 assassination attempts?
I know there were 7. I knew there were some, but I didn't know there were 7.
Technically 8
Oh, well, why did you say 8 then?
by 7 assassins.
Oh, okay.
So some people choose to say 7, and then some people are 8, but by 7 assassins. If you just sort of laid them out and kind of go, what happened? Some of them are quite samey, but the stories behind some of the people are quite interesting. So let's talk about Queen Victoria's assassins, or would-be assassins.
Would be assassins.
Because
she wasn't actually assassinated.
She wasn't. She died of natural causes. She does. But some people bloody well had a go.
They gave it a good old try.
They did. And as you can imagine, obviously, with people targeting a monarch, there could be several reasons behind it. There can be, it could be political, it could be social, could be financial, or it could just be plain mental.
Yep.
Yep.
Many possibilities.
So we're going to delve into it this week. Now, again, this is more about the assassins than it is Queen Victoria.
Yes.
We're going to assume a general sort of knowledge of Queen Victoria. She was a queen.
She was a queen.
She was a queen. She was married to Albert.
Yep.
She had many, many children.
400 children.
400 children. And then Albert died, and then
Yes.
she went into a period of mourning.
For about 400
She
years.
really did for a very long time, for the rest of her life, but she was, until Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch in England. A time of great change.
Yes.
A really interesting time period that we have covered many, many, many times.
Yes, lots of sneaky murderers going on. And was she Jack the Ripper?
Was she Jack the Ripper?
That's an episode in itself.
Well, what did she know? We're not doing that. Nick, we're not doing that. Boo. We could do that. Next, it'll just be, well, no. But let's start at the very beginning, Nick.
Okay.
Very good place to start.
It is.
Assassination. Attempt number 1.
Number
1. It takes place 10th of June, 1840, near Hyde Park.
Okay.
Context: Victoria has been on the throne just shy of 3 years, literally just shy of 3 years.
She's young and young
She's
lady.
young, very young. She has been married to Albert for 5 months.
Yep.
She is 5 months pregnant. Couldn't wait to jump on that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Queen Victoria was, there's all sorts of stuff about like she shagged Albert to death.
Yeah, she was a horny thing, I think.
So she is there. She is just fresh new queen, freshly
freshly
pregnant,
queened.
freshly married, and the assailant is Edward Oxford, and the motivation, fame.
Okay, that's one way to get famous. Not the best way, I would say.
He set the mould, really. Edward Oxford was 18 years old at the time of the attempt, and he had always been troubled. Troubled is a word that is used.
Yeah.
There are various other words that are used in the reporting. Odd, stark, raving, mad, absolutely crazy, as a lot of people would have it. He definitely suffered from mental health issues through his life. One of his descendants has written about him later on. They've done articles. They were able to trace his history and then found like, oh, actually, this person was our ancestor, and they've written about them and tried to sort of reset the history about it. Not trying to change anything. He definitely did what he did, but it added a really interesting perspective, and I'd encourage people to look it up. He came from a poor family. His grandfather was reported in the press a black sailor, possibly a former slave who had been freed and came back to England. And he suffered from delusions, apparently, the grandfather. He thought he was the Pope.
Nice.
Or St. Peter.
Good traditions to have. If
Either-
you're going for it, go big.
Yeah, either or.
Yeah.
You know, Pope St. Peter, 6 of one, half dozen.
Wasn't St. Peter the first pope?
He was the first pope.
So
yeah,
there we
yeah.
go.
Edward's father, George, his son, was a violent drunk.
Nice.
There's no other way around it. Again,
Delightful.
with various issues. He would be described in very horrible terms in the press. While they were documenting the various things that were said about his mental health issues, they would use very horrible terms about him
Yeah.
being mixed race as well. And also Edward would later be constantly described as dark-skinned.
Yeah.
And again, they applied that as in, well, this explains
It
so
explains
much.
why he's mad.
Yeah, but his father, George, loved a bit of the drink, loved a bit of beating his wife,
Jolly times.
loved a bit of a laudanum. He did. He liked to bring his horse into the family home and just trot around on it.
Okay, big home then.
No,
No?
no, they're not rich.
Into the family, 2 up, 2 down. He's riding his horse around.
Pretty much, bring the horse in. La 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 la.
Okay.
He died when Edward was 7. Probably a good thing. Probably the horse
Probably,
just got sick of it. Don't like it.
Yes, the horse fell asleep on him.
Maybe. So he's coming to the marital bed. But Edward would go on, he would grow up and he would become a pot boy in various pubs. But he couldn't really hold the job down because of these issues that he experienced. He was prone to breaking out in fits of crying and then fits of laughter. Just very audibly in the pub, and then also would fly into rages. He would also do weird stuff like turn off all the gas lamps in the pub and just sort of stand in the corner.
That would be unnerving, I feel.
Everyone's like, okay.
This is why the pub is full. And
Yeah.
the pub is open.
Yeah,
Everyone's
absolutely.
trying to have their pint. and it's-
1840, they're like, we need those.
we need the light, please.
We need the lad, please. Would go at some customers with a chisel. Not great. Fired an arrow at a member of staff.
Oh, Christ.
They were like, where did he get an arrow? Did he throw it? Did he have a bow? We don't know. He understandably had trouble keeping a job, and his final post was at the Hog pub, where he laughed so much they had to let him go.
Oh, God.
So this is getting disturbing.
It's going to be distracting, isn't it?
Yes, April 1840, he was let go. He's really down on his luck. He's sort of destitute now, and he's living with his mother. And with the last of his wages, after he's let go from this position, he goes and puts his money to good use by buying 2 flintlock pistols.
Perfect. What's better use of money?
Exactly. He has his pistols. He would practice firing them at a shooting gallery in Leicester Square.
Nice.
Also practice by firing at old ladies who walk past his mother's house.
Brilliant.
Yes. So he's getting his practice. It's not looking well, really,
It's
for
not ideal,
Edward.
is it, really?
But all of this leads him to arriving on the path that Victoria and Albert's carriage would be taking at around 6 p.m. on the 10th of June, 1840. Vicky and Albie,
Vicky and Al.
they left Buckingham Palace. They would travel in a low-sided carriage. So it's an open-top carriage to wave at people.
Got to be seen.
People want to see them.
Yeah.
Very, very important. Waving at the crowds. And Edward steps out of the crowd, adopted a theatrical pose,
That is important there. Mm-hmm. Okay.
and he fired at the carriage. Now he opens up. No one is hit.
Yeah.
Albert looks around. He hears the sound.
Yeah.
And he says he saw a mean-looking man. Victoria would later write, she would write in her journals, about hearing the shot and said, we looked around and saw a little man on the footpath with his arms folded over his breast, a pistol in each hand.
No.
So quite theatrical, the
Yeah.
pose. Now the shot missed, but when it missed, Edward shouted, I have another here. And the other gun. It's like, don't worry, I brought extra. So he's now pulls out the second
Yeah.
pistol. Quinn and Albert sort of duck a bit,
Yeah.
going,
Wise.
what the fuck? He fired again. The shot went wide. Again from Victoria, just before the second shot was fired, and as the man took aim, or rather more while he fired, dear Albert turned towards me, squeezing my hand, exclaiming, my God, don't be alarmed. Mixed
My
message.
God, we're going to die!
Don't be alarmed, though.
it's fine.
Don't get hysterical. He's shaking her while crying. They were very calm and collected, though. As Victoria said, I assured him I was not in the least frightened.
Good.
Which was the case. The 2 shots fired, the Queen instructed the carriage to drive on. Her and Albert said, don't stop. We're not going to let this stop us. And this is
Yeah.
really important. Really, for all of the attempts on her life, is that they see this. They're not going to start screaming. They're not going to break
not
down.
gonna cause a fuss.
No, they're both like, keep going. This man hasn't, we don't know if it was loaded. We don't know anything. Obviously, it's scary, but he will not disrupt this.
Yep.
And people see that as a great sign of
Got
strength.
stuff to do, absolutely.
Exactly. And bravery. And they're
Yeah.
so proud of the young Queen. Who's 5 months pregnant, and her husband going, no, okay, we're not
gonna
going
stop
to
us.
be swayed.
Not going to stop us going shopping?
Yes. Edward is like there going, what the fuck? The crowd swamp him.
I'm hoping there's some sort of police following or some sort of escort.
Certainly there are guards along the way.
You would think there would be some sort of security.
You don't need to rely on the security so much because the crowds will do the work for you. They see Edward, and obviously they see him firing these guns quickly, and they absolutely swarm him. So they all jump on Edward, someone shouting, kill him!
String him up!
They do, and they're all battering him. And then it gets a bit Monty Python, because some guy wrestles the pistols out of his hand and holds them and goes, look, I've got the pistols. And everyone goes, "Ah!" and starts kicking the shit out of him. And he's like, no, not me, not me. And then Edward Oxford looks and says, you're hitting him. And he gets annoyed. And he says, no, I am the man who fired. It was me. He wants the culpability. And they're like, "Ah!" start hitting him too.
It's a bit Don't Say Jehovah, isn't it?
Yes,
really?
it is. It's like the stoning. No one is to shoot any queens. So everyone's piling on. The police manage to get in there and just go, get off, get off, get off. Grab him before the crowd tear him to pieces. And they take him to jail. But obviously Oxford had been standing there going, no, I did it. Don't give him the credit. Me. Why did he do it? He was said, based on papers that were found in his apartments, to be part of a conspiracy of rebels, revolutionaries that he'd made up.
Right.
Yeah. He had made up an entire sort of band of people, a secret society called Young England, that he was the leader of. And he wrote all these notes and these details of this group. It's a time of Chartists and everything sort of rising up.
Yes, there's Republicans.
Yes,
and
Republicans. But he created this mad sort of delusion saying that he was the leader of this group. But was it all a red herring? Was it something that he created? Was he trying to deflect blame to another group? Or was he trying to make himself look more important? Was he really more focused on just becoming famous? Did he even have a shot in the gun? That was a big question at his trial. Because with flintlock pistols, and regularly in these cases, the shot can be fired with powder, but unless there's a shot in there...
You've got a ball in there, it's just going to go bang and a bit of smoke.
Yes.
It looks apart, but it's going to do fuck all.
So what people can do with the guns is that obviously you've got the powder in there, fire that, bang, but no one's going to be hit. Unless you've got a projectile in there. So the lead shot, which is going to sort of flatten on any surface. If it hits a person, it's quite devastating. Yeah. But if you can't find the shot, if it's gone wide, then you can't prove that anything was in that gun. You can also load it up with papers and cloth, and then that becomes a sort of projectile and it can start a fire. Did he actually intend to kill the Queen? Was it just powder? They search around, they can't find the bullet, they can't find the shot.
Could have gone anywhere, really, couldn't it? So,
yeah, and this is the whole thing about, like, can we do him for high treason? Because this is high treason. He would write to friends from jail while awaiting his trial. Very jolly. Very happy tone, not really seeming to understand how much trouble he was in or not caring. Just very sort of like, yes, I'm having a nice time. But at trial, as I said, it couldn't be proved that he'd actually loaded the guns, and given all the stories about him and his father and his grandfather, the jury were like, he's insane. Yeah.
And obviously making up all this Republican group or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's all in his head.
He was sent to Bedlam. But Bedlam. The doctors there felt, though, he was sane. He was a very good prisoner. He learned new languages. He read extensively. He was a model prisoner. And they said throughout his treatment there, later he would move to Broadmoor, they felt this man is sane. He started expressing remorse, alluding to the fact that he had only done this to gain notoriety. He eventually successfully applied to be released on the grounds that he was sane, or the doctors thought he was. He was granted release on condition that he emigrated to Australia.
Oh, okay.
Again, which they often do, go, we'll let you out, but go to Australia. Yes. He went down under 1867, spent the rest of his life working there with the church, got married, and then died later on perfectly happy. Yeah, no other instance. He allegedly said, on learning of all the other attempts on Victoria's life, if only they had hanged me, the dear Queen would not have had all of this bother.
Oh, right. So he would have been a warning against others to do such a thing.
Many people have thought about that later. He clearly was not of sound mind. It would have been wrong. But if from their perspective, if we'd hanged him, then everyone would have been like, oh, there's a really harsh penalty if we try and kill the Queen.
I think people know. No, I think if people want to try and kill the Queen, they're going to try and kill the Queen. I don't think they.
So. It's interesting. Well, hold that thought. Okay. Return to it at the end. Apparently, Albert got hold of the pistols and showed them to Victoria.
These are the guns that tried to kill here. Do you want to take a look?
Have a look at these. I'm like, okay, that's weird. That's weird foreplay, but I'm into it. Victoria definitely would have been into it. Okay, so that's that. Assassination attempt number two. Number two, 29th of May, 1842.
Okay.
A mere 2 years later.
Oh.
Yes, outside Buckingham Palace. So again, in a carriage. Victoria has 2 kids now. She's still with Albert. Albert's still alive. He's still kicking around. The assailant, John Francis. The double attempt. The motivation, money.
Money.
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly.
So how does it get you money?
Well, people don't know.
Unless you're being paid. Unless someone's paid you to do it. Sort of how do you...
The motivation... Not he's trying to gain. You'll understand.
Okay, right. No, I'm jumping ahead. Indeed.
None of these make sense, really, honestly, because people have pondered over the years and gone like, "Why did he do that? Like, why did anyone try to shoot the Queen? Why?" Okay, so Vicky and Albie are travelling back from Sunday morning service again in their open carriage, waving at people. When Albert notices a little swarthy, ill-looking rascal.
An ill-looking rascal.
Ill-looking rascal standing in the middle of the mall.
Okay.
Standing in the middle of the mall, looking at the carriage.
That'll do it.
John Francis is standing there, and he is aiming a gun. Apparently, he pulls the trigger, but no shot sounds. The gun has failed. The prince has clocked him. The guards have sort of clocked him, but he hasn't technically done anything.
Yeah.
And the assailant flees into Green Park. But it wouldn't be the last they'd seen of him.
Oh.
So everyone's going, okay, that guy
that was a bit weird.
He just fired a gun at the carriage, but it failed. So I'm not sure if the smoke actually went off or anything like that, but they were like, no. He was pretty determined, and this is really bad. So they roll into Buckingham Palace going, whoo. But who was John Francis? He was 19. He'd previously worked as a set builder at the Covent Garden Theatre.
Oh, nice.
Yes, his father, quite a pioneer of special effects for the pantos at the theatre. So he worked on the pantomimes, and his son worked with him. And he did these incredible displays, incredible work. And they were really good. The Queen attended plenty of times going, I don't like this. But John had decided to strike out on his own. He'd left his father's side and he tried to become a carpenter. Okay. He tried to continue that trade, but his real plan was he was going to open a tobacco shop.
Okay.
In 1842. Tobacco's good money in tobacco.
Absolutely. Everyone loves a bit of tobacco.
People love a smoke. Great business plan. He made a lot of promises to suppliers that he was going to set up his stock, but then suppliers weren't paying.
Well, that is what they do.
And they do want paying within a matter of days. They're not going to leave this on credit for weeks or months on end. And John had nothing. He really didn't have anything. He'd sort of played so many cards early and he didn't have anything to back it up with. He allegedly was lodging in these rooms. He tried robbing another man in his lodgings. He was caught by the landlord, thrown out on the street. And then at the same time, the supplier of tobacco goes to his shop and says, I'm taking everything back.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, you don't have this. In a matter of hours, he's lost where he lives and he's lost his business.
All his stock, yeah.
So is completely desperate. He's destitute. And he buys a gun. He buys a gun. Flashback to the Mall. John Francis just fired the gun, run off into Green Park. The royal family head into the palace a bit shaken and are a witter about what's to be done. But the Queen and Albert decide she's not going to hide in the palace. She's going to go out again. And she's going to be bait.
Oh, brave.
They're going to be bait because if he's out there and he's determined to fire a shot at her, let's just send the Queen out and see if he's successful this time. They do this apparently because she didn't want to cower in the palace. She would say that she would rather go out and risk her life than live the rest of her life looking over her shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, terrified. Fair. But so they obviously all the guards are out there and everyone of the police and everyone is like stationed in different bits in the crowd, scanning the horizon. The next day, they go out in the buggy on the 30th of May. Albert just looking everywhere. The carriage arrives at Constitution Hill, where Edward Oxford had stood 2 years earlier. Francis appears again. It's a good vantage point, this one.
Apparently so, yeah.
He jumps out of the crowd, fires his gun. The shot rings out, but no one is struck. Again, is the gun loaded? The Queen is uninjured. The police leap on the assailant and the carriage carries on. Again, just keep going. Yeah. So Francis has twice been seen attempting to kill the Queen. But why? Again, what is this? Speculation was that he had possibly read about Oxford, Edward Oxford, thinking fame, he's really, really well known, and Oxford went to jail and then he moved to Australia and he maybe got a new chance at a life, and this is a cheap and easy way. of kind of getting a new life.
Okay.
And to some people who don't know the ins and outs of being in jail in some of the prisons that there were, they think, well, 3 square meals, access to literature, access to all these things. Maybe it's easier to be inside. And also, if I try and shoot the Queen, everyone's going to know my name. It's weird. He's lost his business, so he then goes and tries and shoots the Queen.
Yeah.
How do we get there?
Yeah.
And no one seems to really know, but that's the kind of the weird sort of scrabbling that we get to. John Francis is found guilty of high treason. He is sentenced to death, to be hanged, drawn and quartered.
Yeah.
But his father writes a heartfelt letter to the Queen, like absolutely begging for his son's life, begging for clemency. And at the 11th hour, he gets it. He is a more desperate man than Oxford, they decide. Oxford was just crazy. He was insane, can't be trusted. Okay, he gets his reprieve. He is transported to Van Diemen's, so Tasmania. Serves out his time, marries, has 10 kids.
Okay.
Yep, and then was very repentant and claimed he really didn't mean to hurt the Queen.
Well, yeah, it seems to work out for both of them so far. They've gone on to live nice, sort of fulfilled lives with getting married and having a family and being going on. So.
And this is all reported in the press.
Yeah.
This is all right there, laid out. Still, the question is, like, what's to be gained?
But yeah, I mean, what is okay? Fair enough. If the first chap, okay, so has some mental health issues or whatever, but the other chap is just, I don't know. So it's just if everything's just gone so wrong, and you're just looking for someone to blame.
He didn't give any indication that he blamed the Queen.
Yeah.
He didn't talk about that. In comparison to some people we'll come on to later.
Just the highest profile person.
It will get you. It will get you noticed.
Yeah.
It will get you noticed if you are a failure in a sea of people who are having success. This will get you noticed. So, attempt number 3. Attempt number 3.
Or 4.
No, well, that was, or 4, but we're going with 3. Okay. So there were 2 with John Francis. That's the 2, but we're counting that as one person.
Well, that's one, okay.
7 assassins. So, 3rd of July, 1842. Still, Victoria's barely had time to catch her breath. Barely had time before another fella is waving a gun at her. This time, it's assailant 17-year-old John William Bean.
They're very young, aren't they?
They're very young. A lot of young men.
Yeah.
Disaffected youth. A lot of turmoil. What do you do with your life? And one guy does it and kind of, wow, fame and fortune in the press. They don't know the full repercussions of what's happened. All they see is someone splashed all over the front page and people talking about them and writing about them. But yep, 17-year-old William Bean. Oh, the motive here, maybe just a better life. This is a bit sad, this one. Bean's had a rough life so far. He was at first raised by his uncle and aunt before going back to his parents as a teenager. He was consistently called unsound in intellect, but simple and honest. He has a deformity, curvature of the spine, so a lot of people would use hunchback references to him. He's not had a good time. Not had a good time with his family, not had a good time elsewhere. People sort of made all sorts of assumptions about his intellect based on the fact that he doesn't look like everyone else. He tries to work for various people as assistant, as an errand boy, but he can't keep a job down. He can read and write. He is quite literate.
Pretty damn good for this time.
He finds work so hard. He ends up running away from home, and he writes this incredibly sad letter to his parents where he is assuring them that he will be fine. He's not going to be a burden to anyone. He will be good. He refers to his brothers. He had brothers who were just mean to him all the time and goes, I really wish you well. It'll be fine. And he just goes off.
Oh.
And he's homeless. He is homeless. He sells all of his books. He buys an old gun. There we go. Same thing again. He is sleeping rough. He gets a few pennies delivering newspapers. Again, seeing what's on the front pages, seeing all of this information. As the Queen's carriage returns to the palace after Sunday church on the 3rd of July, 1842, she's in good spirits. You may wonder why she keeps riding around in an open carriage. But, everyone has a gun, but everyone thinks, oh my God, she can survive anything.
Absolutely. She's
wonderful.
Immune to all things.
And the more popular the Queen is, the more the social tide would turn. We cannot underestimate how important it is for the Queen to be popular in this day and age. So she keeps going. Out she goes. But on this Sunday morning, Bean pushes to the front of the crowds and pulls out his gun. He fires at the cabbage.
And the cabbage.
He does. Loves a cabbage. He fires at the carriage, but it doesn't properly fire. His gun was stuffed with tobacco and paper. Not shot. Not
Right.
deadly. Victoria has no idea what's happening. She sort of hears a bang, not so sure, but the display is enough for bystanders to grab his wrist. There's a scuffle. This bystander drags Bean to a policeman. Like, this man tried to kill the Queen.
Yes,
and he's like, no. And he's 17 and they're fighting. And the policeman goes, you two boys, stop playing pranks. Off you go.
Ha!
And then Bean goes, woohoo, and runs away. And he's like, but he tried to shoot the Queen. He's able to run away. But the police are alerted that this has been a serious attempt, and then it's not great. They basically try and round up all people with any kind of disabilities in London, fighting over disabled people to go, I've got him, this is a woman, but still it's fine. Oh, it's not good.
Yeah.
And they falsely arrest loads of different people trying to find Bean. It's not pleasant.
Not ideal.
No, but eventually the police do end up at Bean's parents' home, and he is there, and they take him in, and he confesses. He is such a tragic figure. The press paint him as this horrible monster based on his appearance, but he was actually very mild-mannered and very sad and very scared when he went in. Again, why did he do it? One idea that seems to be banded around is that if he kills the Queen, if he does this attempt, he doesn't mean to do it. He didn't load it with shot.
Well, exactly. If he's not loaded with shot, then obviously he doesn't mean her any harm in the story. Is it just it's a one for attention, isn't it?
A little bit of fame, a little bit of notoriety. Someone will notice me for once, and then potentially a better life in prison. He is heard. You go to prison, you get books, you get food, you get that, and you do get access to things that he cannot access. He's on the streets, or through deportation. Maybe it's a new life. Some people actually said, he fired at the ground. Was he that depressed that he was hoping someone would end his life? He is charged with common assault, sentenced to 18 months hard labour at Millbank. Bean would return to the streets after his sentence. He found work as a jeweller. He married twice. And he would very sadly take his own life in 1882 with an opium overdose. His suicide note to his wife would read, "My whole life has been one of trouble and worry from my very infancy. With my last breath, I think of you, hoping you will do better without me than with me."
Oh, that's very sad.
I know.
That is
I'm
That
sorry.
is very sad, that one.
That is very sad.
Boo.
Boo. Now, attempt number 4.
This better be jolly.
Quick one.
He better be dressed as a clown or something. So he's gonna make the Queen laugh to death or something.
So there's not a great deal of detail on this assailant, really, because he keeps stumm most of it. So this one happens on the 19th of May, 1849. Few years since someone shot at her. We're on Constitution Hill again.
It's a bad place.
Again.
Yeah.
Stop going out in the carriage there.
Put up some screens or fences or something.
I mean, law of averages, she's had a fair few years. No one's shooting at her.
Yeah.
She now has 3 children with Albert. She's working on many more. But our assailant is William Hamilton. Now, Victoria at this time is getting a bit shaken by the uprising of the Chartists.
Yes.
And the threat of revolution from both sides, not only from Ireland, but also from the Chartists. And, this is only going to get worse as they go along. There's rumblings. There's great rumblings. Hamilton is in his 20s. Now, he is an Irish immigrant. He had moved to London to work as a bricklayer, and that was before the famine. Before the famine takes hold, but we're in 1849 now. The famine has been going a couple of years, so they are flooded with immigrants, Irish immigrants, who are struggling to survive in the city. On the 19th of May, Hamilton, like his predecessors, pushes through the crowds as the Queen's carriage passes along the road at Constitution Hill, and he fires a pistol at the carriage. No shot, only powder. What's nice here is the Queen hears it, sort of looks around and goes, "What was that?" And her footman said, "Your Majesty has been shot at." "Oh dear, how troubling."
Yes, how very troubling.
"Oh yes, how very
Carry
rude."
on.
No, carry on. But he said that, "Your Majesty has been shot at." Yes, they do that these days. It's very modern. Hamilton jumped on by the crowds, didn't attempt to run. Bundled away by the police, he made no statements. The police leaving the press and the public to make their assumptions about his motivations. Was he a Chartist? Was he part of an Irish plot to overthrow the Queen due to her blasé response to the famine? While aid was sent. Let's not get into that.
Yeah, indeed. That's a can of worms. I don't think
That's
we
a
need to
can
open
of worms
right
there. But still, Was he a misogynist? And like any of these people could be said, was he a misogynist, furious at the rumblings of suffrage? It's starting. It won't take hold until much later. But, there's a start there. Queen Victoria is a woman. She represents everything that's wrong, even though she wasn't a big supporter of it. Can't discount it.
Can't. No, it's very true.
Or did he simply want a new life? Was he going in the footsteps of all these others and go, this will get me famous. My name will be remembered. And apparently no one gets killed for this.
Yeah.
No evidence of any motivation. He didn't give much away, and he was deported to Gibraltar for 7 years. Yeah. Well, next we have the only attempt that drew blood.
Oh, God, okay.
And there were no guns. But it's quite mad.
Okay, well, even better.
So I think we need another drink.
Oh, yes.
Nick, we have our drinks. Well, it's time to move on to the next batch of assassins.
Number 5. This is number 5.
Number 5. We jump now to the 27th of June, 1850.
Oh, a bit later.
1850, yes, a bit later. Queen Victoria, 7 kids now. She and Albert are working on the Great Exhibition. Not of their kids. The uprisings of the 40s turbulent time of everyone going woo boo. Settle down. Things should all be fine. So there should be no excuse for anyone coming along with political leadings or social discord. None of that should be necessary. Enter assailant Robert Pate, who may be the most fun.
Okay.
Robert Pate grew up in Cambridgeshire, and he was a son of a corn dealer, and he came from a good family. Decent family, as opposed to the others who are from more lower class, working class families, struggle. Robert went to a good school, private education.
Okay.
Very nice. Daddy paid for a commission to the army.
Oh, fancy.
Yes, very good. He enters the army as an officer. He was stationed in Ireland, and apparently something happens in Ireland that changes him completely. From one historian, it was said
Was it a leprechaun? Did he find a pot of gold? No? Okay.
Any more stereotypes you want to throw in there?
I think on there?
Sorry, do you want to go and get your bulldog and wrap yourself in an English flag and have a pint of Stella? At least we have fucking leprechauns.
We have tea.
What do you think the Irish drink? You didn't make the tea.
Potato juice.
Jesus. Right. Aside from the leprechaun wrangling that he did over in Ireland, because that's what the forces went over to do.
Yeah.
This is sad. He had several horses and a dog, and they were bitten by a rabbit dog.
Oh.
And they were attacked, and they all died.
Oh, that's not
and
good.
This apparently broke
That's,
him.
again, not fun.
Not fun, but it's okay later. It's sad. Origin story, sad. It's not always good. And he comes off the rails, really, by this. Yeah. He's devastated. He then becomes incredibly paranoid. He's convinced that people are trying to kill him. He leaves the army. He runs back home, and there he stays. He gives up his commission, and he adopts this very strange life of eccentricity for himself. He was named in the army Mad Pate.
Pate a bald patch? Or...
No, it's his surname.
Okay.
His surname is Pate.
Right. I thought, Pate means something as well.
Well, I mean, it might have.
Yeah, I don't know. Just remind me of that.
Well, look it up if you want to. Are you looking it up?
I am. I'm Googling it. Oh, I guess now it's pate, but...
Is that what you thought it was? Isn't pate? It's a kind of a squashed meat.
I don't want it with no accents. All I'm getting is lovely pates and terrines.
Lovely terrines. So, anything else from Pate?
No.
Right, you made shit up.
Now.
Right, okay.
Didn't make shit up.
Sorry. Okay, let's go back to your insightful comments about leprechauns, shall we? So, Mad Pate.
Yes.
So he was known around London when he moved back, and again he lives
terrines.
For his wonderful jellies and pates.
His charcuterie.
I don't doubt that he made them. He had good lodgings in London. He lived about above Fortnum and Mason.
See?
Yeah, he could have all the terrines he wanted.
Exactly. He supplied Fortnum and Mason with his leprechaun terrines.
He brought them down and said, right, I've made this from the finest of the Irish leprechauns. And they went, great. I think we should put an accent over the E to make it extra fancy. Pate. Right, so that, aside from his success in the deli...
So inventing pate.
He had these apartments in London. He used to take walks around the parks, and Queen Victoria had seen him many times herself.
Okay.
Because he bowed to her very extravagantly every time she passed.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah. People bowed.
If a queen passed.
He literally went for it.
Yeah.
Like, for her to say he bowed very extravagantly is like, in a sea of people... in London
It's a whole
who
sort
are
of
trying
Chinese
to
kowtow type
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It's
literally
not
like
head to the floor.
fleeing this around. Well, all will become clear. So in his property, apparently he would wake up each morning. He would put his head in a bowl of water, freshen up, which I don't think is a bad thing necessarily.
Okay,
Nice. He would have his bath, and he would pour in quite a lot of whiskey and camphor into the bath, soothing, and then would shout and sing loudly for a while.
Camphor will do that to you, I think. And also, jolly time in the bath.
Jolly time in the bath.
Sounds great.
There was an account at court later on by a cab driver who called on him daily. And this was found by Dr. Bob Nicholson, who did the podcast series Killing Victoria. So credit to him here. But he recorded the following. He would pick up Pate from his home, above Fortnum Mason, lovely, lovely, drive him to Putney Heath, where he would daily walk through the thickest bushes to get in, stare intently into the pond, and then would jump up and leap back into the cab and demand that he drive off as fast as he could.
Okay. Well, the fish have told him something.
He had a cane that he used in a peculiar way.
How so?
We don't know.
Oh.
It's just he used it in a peculiar way.
Right.
His daily walks in the parks around Piccadilly, he would goose step around the park.
I mean, I'm liking that.
Yes. And he would
I'm
have
imagining a massive twirling cane affair going on as well.
He had his head tilted back, his hat really pushed back on his head so he could tilt his head up, and he waved his cane around like a sword.
Brilliant.
While
I mean,
goose
that
stepping around the park.
I mean, that's going to get you noticed.
And everyone's like, oh, it's just Mad Pate.
It's just Mad Pate.
Oh, it's Mad Pate. In finery, in very good dress.
If you're going to do that, you've got to look the part.
Yeah. Nice dress. Yeah.
You're not doing that in your shabby clothes.
Exactly. Source of amusement. Everyone's like, oh, you silly man. Until the 27th of June, when he made an odd decision.
Yeah.
Victoria, she later described the day. She was visiting her uncle in Piccadilly at Cambridge House with 3 of her children. She was leaving the property and she comes out, and apparently it's a small side entrance she comes out, so it's not like to great pomp and ceremony, but there's some people around
to sneak out the back,
who see the Queen leaving. There's something, and they sort of scuttle around like, oh my God, and it's fine. It's not a huge to-do. But she notices that Pate sees the crowd coming forward, and this is what she would write. A little in front of the crowd stood a young gentleman who I have often seen in the park, pale, fair, with a fair moustache,
Nice.
and a small stick in his hand. Before I knew where I was or what had happened, he stepped forward, and I felt myself violently thrown by a blow to the left of the carriage. My bonnet was crushed, and on putting my hand up to my forehead, I felt an immense bruise on the right side, fortunately well above the temple and the eye. Pate has walked up to the Queen.
Twatted her around the head.
Twatted her round the head.
That seems unnecessary.
With his metal-tipped cane, has hit her on the head. This draws blood.
Yeah.
Victoria is ushered into her carriage with people going, what?
What the fuck was that about?
He's just walked up and twatted her on the head.
That seems unnecessary.
It's not necessary, no.
Yeah.
She gets into the cab, remains stoic in front of everyone. She's not screaming, she's not bawling. I know, and this is the thing, again and again, people would talk about for years, and that later that evening, it was the fact that Victoria was hit on the head, she was shocked, and these diary entries later gave insight into how emotional she was feeling at the time. She wrote, like, I am so shocked, but at the time she was like,
nope.
Be decorum. Get into the car. Decorum.
Keep it together.
Well, it doesn't matter about decorum, really. It's just like, keep it together, get in the cab. And everyone's like, she's the bravest person we've ever seen. She was scarred, and that scar was visible for 10 years by the strike, by the cane. She was very shaken compared to the gun attacks, because this is someone who's just
a physical contact here, isn't it? This one. This is actually someone who's got up close and personal and actually made contact. Everyone else has been at a distance, and there's been a noise, and it's like, oh, someone did try to kill you, but she... So this is very different.
Someone can just come up and have access to her if they wanted to. What if that had been a knife?
Yeah.
What if it had been, as she wrote, what if it hit her on the temple?
Absolutely, yeah. It could have taken the eye out, or absolutely.
Exactly. She could have been killed. Later that night, Victoria would go to the theatre, and the audience stood up and cheered for 5 minutes straight, gave her a standing ovation, and then broke out into the national anthem and just kept screaming apparently. Well, you better, Victoria. Because, again, stoic, that was who Queen Victoria was. She was the emblem of society. Pate was seized, obviously, at the time.
Yes.
Like, whoa!
One would hope.
And the public were very keen for him to be publicly punished. They want him to be like, oh yeah, there were all sorts of things about it. Let's have him holding the cane and be put in a box and we all look at it for a while and throw shit at it. And I'm like, it's not the Middle Ages. Why? All sorts of calls
Put him in
for
stocks at Piccadilly or something.
Yeah, people felt that because again, it had been such this brazen attack, really. But the police really wrote him off as an eccentric. It's like, he's crazy. Everyone knows he's crazy.
Yeah.
He's done something really stupid. They couldn't find any motivation for the attack. Even Pate himself said later on, was said to be as surprised as anyone.
There's no idea why he did it.
That he did it. There's no idea.
He does seem an eccentric chap.
Yes.
Who's just, absolutely. It's just gone and seen, and it's gone, oh, it'll be fun. Oh, this will be a Jolly Jape sort of thing. And
I feel like this would be funny.
I mean, we all got those random intrusive thoughts about
and he followed
through or something. And we hit the Queen with a stick.
He's like, oh shit. There's consequences.
Yeah, there are consequences to this.
He went to trial. His father paid for a very strong defence team, but he was found guilty of...
you can't not, really.
Yeah. Unlawfully assaulting the Queen with intent to injure her. He was sent to the 7 years of transportation.
Yeah.
So Robert Peel at the time, some of the early assaults, I haven't gone massively into the legal history here, but he was putting into action this law that was specifically about targeting the Queen. And it's not just simple as high treason and everything. If someone attacks them, but they don't actually succeed, what do we do then? Because there really wasn't a law. It was attempted murder. Like, what do we do? So these are starting to filter through. And the harshest sentence was 7 years transportation, because people are going, whip him. He served time in Millbank, and apparently he had very good preferential treatment in the prison because he was rich.
Well, that's the thing. If you've got money to pay for it, absolutely.
Yeah, people talked about it later on. Good food, nice clothes, tailored clothes, had a servant. Everything was good.
If you can pay for it, then you're going to get whatever you want.
He went to Australia. He served his time, then was a free man, married an Australian heiress. His father died. He was a very rich man. He returned to London, continued to live a very happy, comfortable life. No more crazy shit, apparently.
Crazy shit. Well, I'm sure
he got it out of his system.
I'm sure there's plenty of crazy walking around the park being a bit weird, but no more lunging at the Queen.
Now this one, attempt number six. Now this is the political one, and this is very close. Very close. 29th of February, 1872. So again, we've leapt quite away. And this is inside the grounds of Buckingham Palace. Not out in the open. Yeah. Arthur O'Connor. Is the reason politics? Well, we'll see. 22 years after the last attempt, Victoria is mourning Albert.
Yeah.
Albert is passed. She is withdrawn from public life. She has spent a huge amount of time out of the public eye. Her popularity is waning, but she's started to go back into society from like Disraeli kind of go, please
just get out there. People need to see you.
Yeah.
Stop eating that sandwich.
I would hate it if someone said, stop eating sandwiches and go outside. Why? I'm
the fucking Queen.
Mean.
I'm sad and I want a sandwich.
Exactly. My husband's dead. I've got a load of kids. I'm tired. People keep shooting me. Anyway, she's withdrawn public life, but she's persuaded to go out for Leap Day, because it's the 29th of February. Leap Day, to do a little turn around the parks. Now, this is preceded by a couple of days of her going out to St. Paul's Cathedral. Big pomp and ceremony. She's actually going to appear. The public love it. They want to see her. She attends a procession through the city. She returns to the palace after a successful day out on Leap Day. As the carriage moves through the gates and into security up to the entrance of her home, 17-year-old Arthur O'Connor jumps out, approaches the carriage, and points a gun at her head. Who was Arthur O'Connor? He was a warehouse clerk. He was very well read. He came from a long line of Irish radicals and revolutionaries.
Yeah.
His uncles were leaders in the Chartist movement. Their names were revered. They were celebrated. Young Arthur has big shoes to fill.
Big things to look up to, absolutely.
And he wants to make his mark in the world. He was said to have suffered a head injury as a child that changed his temperament.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Common theme here. This is not the only one who suffered this.
Yeah.
We'll see. He became involved, allegedly, with the Irish rebels in London. He began to concoct an audacious plan to get the world's attention. And if he couldn't succeed in what he had planned in his head, he would at least die a hero for his cause.
Okay.
So yeah, big plans.
Yeah, indeed,
17-year-old, big plans, big plans.
Well, you have when you're 17, haven't you? You're full of testosterone and sort of. Well, you probably weren't.
No.
but boys generally, but chaps, yeah, full of
I would have had those plans and then gone, but what if everyone doesn't like me? Are you all mad at me?
So yeah, full of bravado and wanting to make their mark on the world and
because you're so full of energy and it's like, this is
absolutely.
the time, this is the time. And back then, the Victorian era, I don't have a long lifespan.
exactly. I'll
still.
be dead in 4 years, so come on, let's get on with it. I'm already middle aged.
Pretty much. His first plan had been to accost the Queen at St Paul's Cathedral in part of her early excursions, but he couldn't reach her. It never really worked out. Apparently he tried to hide under some pews the day before, but some workmen went in there and went, okay, we can see mud being trailed to this area. Get out, weird person. So he snuck to the palace on the 29th of February. He worked his way through the crowds, knowing he wouldn't get a clear shot at her there. He got to the palace, he scaled a fence, and he got into the courtyard, and he ran across the courtyard, hid, waited for the carriage to draw up to the entrance. And when it did, he jumped out and he pulled out a very old, rusty flintlock pistol. This is many years after they were sort of in their heyday. His plan was to demand that the Queen signed a document that he'd written himself, that he had on him, agreeing to free all Irish prisoners in England.
Okay.
He got within a foot of the Queen. Had his gun drawn. He apparently muttered, "Take that from the Fenians." He got that far before John Brown, the Queen's bestie.
Billy Connolly.
Bestie, faithful servant, companion, dearest friend, possible... jumped out, and he was an imposing man, and grabbed him by the neck and threw him to the ground, and he is arrested. The press did not hail him as a hero,
No.
but as an idiot.
Yeah.
The Irish said, no, he has nothing to do with us.
Nothing to do with that.
And Victoria, again, terrified by the assault, is 22 years after Robert Pate, but this is in her own territory.
This is in her house.
Right in front of her.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to be stoic in front of the crowds. She is absolutely petrified.
Gotcha.
Because someone's pointed a gun at her. And it's a very rusty old gun. It probably wouldn't have worked. But it served to help turn favour back to Victoria, which had been waning. Again, she survived an assassination attempt and was brave and was strong.
Oh, the people are going to love it.
They absolutely loved it.
Was it a plot by the palace?
Well, that is a theory.
To revive her waning fortunes.
I like the way you think.
Yeah.
I like the way you think. There is a theory. There are rumblings. This would predate things that actually happened later. Was he bribed to commit the attack to rouse up anti-Fenian feeling?
Yeah.
And to instill confidence in the palace.
Yeah. Bring out a bit of patriotism and some queenly goodness.
I mean, that happened later in different cases, but people think, was it? And people think that because of what happened after he was caught.
Okay. Tell me.
He was sentenced to 1 year's hard labour.
That seems rather light for the attempted killing of the Queen.
And all the predecessors?
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 year's hard labour. Whipping with a birch rod.
Oh, that's less fun.
They got the whipping in.
Okay.
They got the whipping in. But pretty light. And Victoria herself felt the sentence was too lenient and wrote about it and said, this man has gotten so close to me compared to everyone else.
Yeah, everyone else.
Everyone else. So the government said, okay, well, 1 year's labour, we'll send him to Australia. He's not serving in Australia. We'll just send him.
We'll send him there. Yeah.
We will send him to Australia. And he goes to Australia. He tries it for a year. Writes to the Queen. Randomly, she never reads it, just going, I don't really want to stay here. I'm going to be a poet. I'm a poet at heart. Returns to England, goes into various asylums. Okay. Apparently goes back to Australia and just spends the rest of his life kind of bopping about, having his mental health treated, but no other punishment.
I mean, and also, where's he getting the money for this? I mean, because to return from Australia, you had to pay your own way. The government is not going to pay for your return trip once you've been transported. So. And if he's gone back and forth a couple of times, and he's bopping around the place, being a poet and what have you, I mean, how's he affording this?
When he came back 2 years after his attempt, he would stand outside Buckingham Palace. He was clocked by guards who made all these sorts of comments that he was trying to get in and do another attempt. He would say, "No, I just turned up and stood outside." It's bold. It's weird.
Yeah, that seems odd. That. Yeah.
What's going on there?
Something sneaky going on there. Something.
Could just be a crazy man.
Could be a crazy man.
acting on his own and doing crazy things later.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting you picked up. Interesting. But now we come to number 7.
Okay.
The final one. Short but sweet and fun.
Nice.
It's the 2nd of March, 1882. 1882. The Queen, it will take place in her carriage. Again, a carriage, but it's when she's leaving Windsor Station.
Okay.
She wants to go to the castle. She's come up from London. And she's 63 by now. Weary, lonely.
Wants a weekend away.
She does. Yeah. It's everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Everyone's dead, apart from her kids. But one of them was tried to be killed.
The kids are around there. So there are so many of them. They've all gone off married people.
She's had a hell of a time going, this one's definitely going to be Jack the Ripper. And I have to now quell that. But the assailant is Roderick MacLean. And his reason is because his sister didn't give him enough money and now he has to kill all the aristocrats.
Say that one again?
His sister didn't give him enough money, so he has to kill all the aristocrats.
Right.
Yes.
Was his sister particularly aristocratic?
No.
Right.
No. Here it is. So, 28-year-old Roderick MacLean comes from another good family. His father was the owner of Fun, which was the rival to Punch magazine.
Okay, so money. Yeah.
Money. He planned to have a glittering literary career. Not to be. He, again, like our previous assailant, hit his head when he was a kid.
Okay.
And apparently hitting his head, it comes up a lot.
Yeah.
It makes you suspicious, but maybe it actually fucking happened. He hit his head and apparently started hearing voices and behaved differently. He became fixated on the colour blue and the number 4.
Okay.
After this accident, he got very upset when people wore blue because it was his colour.
Okay.
And he felt people were mocking him by wearing blue.
Right.
So this is very strange system that he has set up that he's feeling in his bones. His family tried to send him to America. He just ended up fighting people on the boats and then they were sent back and he wouldn't get on the ships and they were like, oh, okay, Christ. His parents died. He had siblings who were seemingly of sound mind and they inherited, but he was drifting. He was drifting and living in workhouses and spending spells in asylums or on the streets. He was just the sort of the forgotten child of the group. But his sister kept trying to look after him and his brother too. They sent him money, but he was convinced, Roderick, that the world was against him and he couldn't accept that he might be responsible for any of his own misfortunes. He at first wrote to Queen Victoria regularly, praising her, sending her his poetry. Sending his poetry and thinking that she would just pick him up and sponsor him and it'd be wonderful.
Well, there's a poet laureate, isn't there? So perhaps he can become a national poet.
I don't know when that started,
yeah,
actually.
I think probably a bit later.
Maybe he invented it.
maybe he was the first one.
Yes, but he was writing to Queen Victoria all lovely things while writing horrible letters to his brother and sister. Saying oh, you hate me. Oh, you're not giving me enough money. He would go through good periods and then down periods. He spent a few happy weeks in Portsmouth where he seemed to just have some sort of contentment by the sea and play his concertina on the shore. But then he kept talking about the Queen and he seemed to sort of shift and fixating on the idea that the world and the regime was against him, that people were laughing at him and mocking him and, well, the Queen's the head of the people.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily that he hated Queen Victoria, but that
what she represents.
People were against him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So he buys a pistol in Portsmouth, and then he walks to Windsor.
That's impressive. Mm-hmm. That's a big old trek.
Doesn't do it in one day. He stops off.
Yes, I would say, yeah, that's like a week's journey.
he walks off. It stops at various places. Says some mad shit to people, but they go, "Fucking hell," and they'll report on it later.
That's a couple of 100 miles.
Yeah, he walks to Windsor, and he knows that the Queen's train will arrive there because she's travelling back from London. She's going to arrive in Windsor, so he stands and waits on the 2nd of March amongst the crowds. He had time to write his sister this letter before he does what he does. He says, "I should not have done this crime had you, as you should have done, paid the 10 shillings per week instead of offering me the insulting sum of 6 shillings per week and expecting me to live on it. So you perceive the great good a little money would have done had you not treated me as a fool and set me more than ever against those bloated aristocrats led by that old lady Mrs. Vick, who is a cursed robber in all senses."
I just don't get where he's sort of conflated the two together. So his sister, okay, from a wealthy family, is diddling him on what he thinks is his inheritance or his allowance that he should be getting.
He shouldn't be getting, well, it may be, but...
But how then that goes from it's the aristocrats' fault, and
Queen Victoria's.
and therefore the Queen's fault that you're doing this to me. It's a strange
It's a bit
sort of link to make.
mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bit mad. So there he stands in the crowd, as did a bunch of schoolboys from Eton, who were cheering on their monarch as she started her journey. Her carriage pulls away from the station, and the Queen heard what she thought was an explosion from the engine. But in another moment, she said, I saw people rushing about, and a man being violently hustled. The Eton schoolboy had seen Roderick fire the shot, and had immediately started battering him with umbrellas.
Brilliant.
So just a bunch of schoolboys beating him to the ground.
Fantastic.
He was arrested. The press made a mockery of him, joking about his fears and this paranoia about the colour blue and the numbers that he was fixated on. The jury decided in 5 minutes that he was not guilty of attempted murder of the Queen because he was insane. The Queen found that very difficult. But he was committed to Broadmoor, and he spent the rest of his life there. The Queen would not die from any assassination attempts.
Nope, not at all.
She would die of natural causes on the 22nd of January 1901. From her journals, we know what an emotional toll these attacks had on her privately, but publicly they served to bolster opinion of her and show her to be a courageous, stoic, firm, and terribly Victorian
Terribly British
figure. As Victoria herself would say, it is worth being shot at to learn how much one is loved. And that is the story of the many assassins, attempted assassins,
yes,
of Queen Victoria.
Nice.
Yay.
Oh, that was interesting. I like that.
You liked it?
I did. I like that. That was good. I've learned things.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
There's some good many stories.
I was worried that you'd delve into it and just and someone shot her there and oh my God. But it's, it's a very weird series of events.
Yeah.
All of these people, yes, possible mental health issues that they were not treated for, that they were not treated kindly for, and they were mocked for.
See, I knew people had tried to kill her, but I had no idea about the individuals and why and things like that. And I'm really surprised that there are no more sort of obvious political motives behind it. You would think, okay, why are you trying to kill Queen Victoria? Okay, you're anti-monarchy, you're a Republican, you're Irish, get the British out of it. Those sorts of things. You would think, well, that's a solid reason.
You would think,
to take those sorts of steps if you were of that mind, but there weren't any of those apart from one which sounds questionable.
But yeah, that's the thing.
And everyone else is just a bit like, oh, it sounded like a good idea.
You would think that at least one of them would be standing up, shouting out for the workers, for Ireland, for all these people, something like that.
Down with the empire or something.
Does not excuse it, but you'd think they'd be more vocal in why they had done it, or that another group would come forward and claim it.
Yeah.
These were just a series of random
people,
strange attacks, which has led people to multiple conspiracy theories.
You can go down any route then, can't you?
Yeah, as soon as you get that kernel of doubt, there's people who go, oh, were any of them genuine? Was this just a series of attacks to curry favour? How can you shoot at the Queen and not actually kill her or hit Albert? I think in the film, Young Victoria, it's deemed that, Albert threw himself across the Queen and protected her from a shot and may have been injured. I was like, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's very romantic, isn't it?
Oh, exactly. Yes, it's very romantic. I mean, it's odd to think that the people, and we know that some of them fired without having shot in their gun, or tobacco and paper or whatever one of them was. Because in my mind, if you've got a gun, you want to shoot someone.
Yes.
Sort of thing. In my head, I can. If I'm pointing a gun at someone, I want to shoot that person. Nowadays, you would assume that yes, they intended to shoot that person, but even to have the thought of was the gun loaded or was it not loaded or.
Well, I think that
it seems odd. It seems very strange.
But back then, anything to get attention.
Yeah.
To do something to be noticed, literally firing a gun in the middle of a street, who's going to remember your name? Who's going to write about you? Who's going to talk about you? If you did that now, you'd be all over how many manner of residence groups, and then you'd be in the local paper, and you'd have the social media. They don't know that then, obviously.
Yeah.
But we think about that like, oh, why would you just do that? That was your key to immortality. And if you're of that mindset that I don't matter, if I take a pot shot at the Queen, I don't actually mean it. everyone's going to remember my name. And we have literally done a
And
whole
then we're
podcast about it.
100 years later, we're talking about their names. I mean, absolutely. But
people who did something crazy in the street, it's sort of like, oh, they're not going to be written about. I have to do something so over the top and outlandish that they will be remembered. Maybe Victoria and Albert and all the guards knew that. Maybe that's why they carried on going, you know what, this is part of the job. How many leaders were assassinated? How many, Queen Victoria on her deathbed was like pulling over Kaiser Wilhelm going, don't do anything rash later. I know you like Franz Ferdinand, but don't do that. But it's a completely different mindset of how do you see me? In a male-dominated society with a female queen, how do you see me? How am I more important? How can I strike something down? It's not necessarily direct misogyny, like, oh, yeah, I'll kill a woman or everything. But what is that to a symbol of a lot of a generation?
Yeah.
Of like, I'm supposed to be so important and you all told me that I was going to succeed. And now here's a female queen in front of me doing better. And it's not my fault.
It's strange to even try and understand that train of thought.
Yeah, we can't.
I need to be famous, or I need to be known, or I need to be seen. And I'm going to take this such drastic action to get that, I suppose, respect, or get that admiration or acknowledgement that these people think they're due. This is such a strange concept. It's
one element of it. There's a lot of stuff that it may not have been about fame. People wrote about it. It may have just been a desperate attempt at someone to go to jail, to maybe get the best treatment, to get something like that.
Well, I suppose there were easy ways to go to jail.
But then if you go to jail with notoriety,
you go to jail for stealing a loaf of bread or whatever, it's
just shove them in there.
Exactly. Yes. So as you say, when you have that level of notoriety, you're going to jail, and
how many visitors are you getting?
Exactly. So
people sending you things.
You probably get a better experience in jail.
You're going to be a high-profile prisoner.
Be a high-profile person.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Guys, what do you think, people? What do you think of the many assassination attempts of Queen Victoria? What do you think about the motivations about these assassins? Why do you think these people do it? Of the many cases we've covered, what do you think might have been the motivation behind their attacks? Do you think there is any credit in them wanting fame, wanting notoriety? Do you think there was something else at work? Is there an element we maybe haven't covered? Jump on the comments, tell us what you think, share your thoughts, your feelings, your theories, but most importantly, mix up the Red Killer.
The Red Killer.
It is a nice twist on a granny.
Yeah, it was tasty.
It is sophisticated.
Yes, I enjoyed it. And I may have another one sometime. So the rest of it will be out this Friday. So yeah, do mix up one if you can. Not got anything particularly obscure in there. So yeah, definitely give it a go and let us know what you think.
My plan is to continue some stories about Queen Victoria, the fascination around death, and particularly her funeral as well, over on Patreon this week. So if you're not already a Patreon subscriber, this is a good time to join. It's completely flexible. You can do it $5 a month, $15 a month for higher tiers, and you can quit anytime you want. We appreciate the support. Thanks for listening, guys. We have been the people inside the Poisoner's Cabinet. We will see you next week. And remember, your loved ones are trying to kill you.
Bye.